Good morning, class. Today we are going to talk about crop production, and under crop production, we look at the introduction part of it. So we'll start with the definition. Well, we'll define some terms. The first term we'll define is crop. What is a crop? A crop is a plant or plant part that is grown and harvested. Crop production, that is the process of growing crops for domestic and commercial purposes. Commercial is where you grow them in large scale, then you sell them to get income, while domestic is majorly for the in-house use. Then seedbed is a piece of land that is prepared, ready to receive planting material. So planting material can either be seeds, can be growing vegetative parts. So when it is ready to receive that particular piece of land, then when you are ready to plant, we'll transfer them into the seed bed. Then we look at reasons for seedbed preparation. Why do you need to prepare the seedbed before transplanting or before sowing onto that piece of land? So number one, to enable water to infiltrate. In that as you cultivate the land, as you prepare it, you'll be creating a channel. Maybe for example, you've done the primary cultivation. So when you do primary cultivation, the pond that would have formed onto the soil that will prevent water from reaching onto the soil will have been removed. So it will enable water easily to infiltrate into the soil. Then to kill weeds. Maybe when you say kill weeds, when you cultivate the land or when you plow the land, you'll be turning the soil upside down. So when you turn the soil upside down, the roots of the weeds will be exposed to the sunlight, which will scorch them and they die. Then number two is to prove soil aeration by movement of the soil. So when you're plowing the soil, there will be movement going on into the soil. So as the movement takes place, the aeration of the soil will be increased. Then to incorporate organic matter into the soil. We find that the organic matter will be incorporated into the soil as you turn the soil. So the top part of the soil will be buried into the soil. So when it is buried into the soil, there will be organic matter incorporated into the soil. Then for easy planting. When you cultivate the land, it will be easy for either the planters or the person who will be going to sow on that particular land. Then to facilitate root penetration, in that you find that when the land had not been cultivated, it would be hard for the roots of the plants to penetrate deep into the soil to acquire the leach nutrient. So when you cultivate the land or when you prepare the land, they would be easy to access the nutrients that would have been leached down into the soil. Then we look at reasons for land clearing. Why do you need to clear land? Number one, when a stock growing crop was previously planted. Obviously, before cultivation, you need to remove the stalks and the stems onto the soil for you to plant. Then when there is a long interval between primary and secondary cultivation. So primary cultivation, that is the first tilling of the land. Then secondary cultivation is the second tilling. That is when you want to acquire a particular tilth required for sowing a particular seed. Maybe like for the small seeded crops, they require fine till. So you will have to do primary, secondary, and tertiary cultivation. So when there is a long period between primary, the first cultivation, and the second cultivation, weeds would have germinated onto that particular piece of land. So when you want to plow, when you want to sow or to plant on that land, you need to clear it. So when another point is when land was left fallow for a long time. So fallow, for example, in the olden days there was shifting cultivation. Shifting is where crops would be grown in a particular piece of land for a long period of time until the nutrients of the land is depleted. After depletion of the nutrients, the farmers would move to another piece of land where they would grow as they leave this land to regain its fertility. So the period between the land gaining its fertility, that is the fallow period. So When it is fallow, now any cultivation is carried out on that particular land, weeds would germinate on that piece of land. So before you plant onto that land, you need to clear it first to make it easy for the machines and the people will be working on that particular piece of land. Then another point is when opening up a virgin land. A virgin land simply means that in that particular piece of land, no any other cultivation has ever been done. So meaning if there were trees would be long, would have grown long on that particular land. The weeds would have germinated on that particular land. So when you want to plow that, you need to clear it first. Then the third thing, we look at methods for land clearing. There are different methods that are used to clear land. So for example, you can do the tree felling and removal of stumps. Tree felling, you can use an axe to fell down the trees, while the removal of stumps, you can use a djembe or a fork djembe to remove the stumps, the roots of the stumps. So when you remove maybe you will cut the trees using an axe, but the roots will not have been removed. So in order to remove the root, you need a fork djembe to remove the roots. Then number two is burning. Burning is where you set the whole farm ablaze. You set it on fire for it to kill weeds. Then number two we have slashing. Slashing, that is where you use a slasher to remove the weeds, the grasses that might have germinated onto that particular piece of land. Then the third one we have use of chemicals. So use of chemicals, the chemicals majorly used in land clearance are called herbicides. And under herbicides, we have different categories of herbicides to clear different kinds of weeds. So for example, we have non-selective herbicides. So non-selective herbicides, these are herbicides that clear both the broad-leaved weeds and the narrow-leaved weeds. The broad-leaved weeds like the datura, then we have the narrow-leaved weeds like grasses. So when you mix the chemical at the required rate and spray on the farm in the morning, then it will kill all the weeds that are on that particular piece of land. And if there are any crops of beneficial use and you spray them with the non-selective herbicide, automatically it will also clear the crops. Then we have the number two the other type of herbicide. We have the non-select the we have the selective herbicide. These are herbicides that kill the there are those that kill broadleaf weeds. Then there are those used to weed different types of crops. So use of chemicals can also be used in land clearing. So there are so many other methods that are used in land clearing, and for our next lesson or in our next class, we look at the other methods that are used in land clearing. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Hope you've learned a lot.